Hey everybody, today we are doing another topic video. This week we are talking about your favorite movies and why you feel that way. I know I have said this before, but as you can imagine, I get asked pretty much every single day what my favorite movie is all the time. Some people like to be like, if you're on a desert island and you had one movie, what would it be? I don't have an answer for that question because sometimes I'm really into the score of this film. I really love this beautiful shot in this movie. Oh, but there's this beautiful, beautiful scene in this movie that I think is one of the greatest of all time. So yeah, I'm just kind of picking and pulling. It's the fragments that tend to inspire me the most compared to the entire piece. It's due to the voyeurism of film that it's not necessarily my favorite art form. That would be more music. The way you bridge the gap with your brain, with your emotions when it comes to music, I personally find more powerful and more emotionally engaging. So that is just me. But that being said, I can certainly pull from different movies that I love off the top of my head. Three Women is always one I like to talk about. Picnic at Hanging Rock is another one. Aguirre, The Wrath of God. Persona, Sunset Boulevard. I could go on and on and on, obviously, hence why I never answer the question. But let's see what some of you guys wrote in. Obviously, a lot of these tend to be repeats from other videos that I've done in the same subject matter, so I tend to go for movies that are maybe a little bit different, so we're not repeating so much. Collateral, 2004. It just nails the melancholic atmosphere. Yes, it does, but I think it nails a specific type of melancholy atmosphere. It captures LA melancholia and LA at night type of melancholia. There's something to the lights. There's something about going from club to club late at night where all of the interesting characters are out. It does kind of create an existentialism because it's Michael Mann. It has that surveillance camera type of look. When I was younger, I didn't gravitate towards it that much, but now I look at it and I feel like it completely serves the piece. I mean, it gives it all those flavors I think that it needs because it is very important that that movie captures a certain side of Los Angeles. The world building is integral to the entire thing. And I love Tom Cruise in that movie. I know a lot of people might say that his best performance is in Magnolia. Maybe they're right. It's probably the one that is most suited to his strengths. But I personally think I prefer Collateral because I think he had to stretch himself here. He had to prove that he had range, and you never see Tom Cruise as a villain. When Tom Cruise runs in his movies, there's always this kind of cartoony, humorous quality to it. But then when you watch it in Collateral, it's like, oh my God, it's like the Terminator coming at you. It's terrifying. But certainly, as we drift more and more into the nighttime feeling in that movie, the more you feel like you lose yourself, the more you feel like you don't understand your intent, your purpose, and that I think is pretty powerful. Y Tu Mamá también. Beyond the quality of the craft and layered, rich storytelling, as a Latino, I feel like it's a film that perfectly captures how it feels to live in this part of the world, how we integrate tragedy, misfortune, socioeconomic tension into our day-to-day and make them mundane, how we bury and ignore the things that really haunt us. Cuarón is a phenomenal filmmaker, but no other work of his feels as alive and mature as this one. Wow, that's a fantastic, fantastic explanation. I think mainly because you're emphasizing an aspect of the movie that I think is 100% one of the great strengths of it, and yet very few people bring that up. Cuarón is an amazing filmmaker, and he's made quite ambitious works, as we know, but I agree with you. There is something about the intimacy, the minimalism of this movie, and the fact that it is, I think, coming from a personal place. That's why it excels more than all the others, in my opinion. And I think it resonates too, or can resonate with anybody because yes, it is a coming of age story. But somebody like me, I love road trip movies. I think coming of age, it's the perfect setting for it because, maybe you're on a road trip and all you see is the road ahead of you and behind you. And after a while, there's this isolation and all this existential angst starts to creep in. It becomes meaningful. But also on road trips, very rarely do things go according to plan. So that's always fun as well, plot-wise. But there's so much going on between these three characters, whether you're taking the political context or not, you're just looking at the emotional context. I agree with you. I think what you say here about how we integrate tragedy, misfortune, all of that, where it becomes mundane, that is the power of this movie. I know people have criticized me maybe in the past month or two about saying, how can you get angry at a movie like Superman for being political? I'm not angry about politics. Obviously, politics is often in all kinds of movies, whether it's a more serious film, whether it's a popcorn entertainment, blockbuster, whatever. That's not the point. It's more about how it's executed. And I like it more when it is well integrated into the story, just like in this movie, simply because it feels meaningful and personal. And that's all that really matters to me. Aguirre, The Wrath of God. It feels so raw, as A.O. Scott said, almost like a documentary. Well, yeah, I think that was the point, is for it to be almost like a documentary. So, but yes, Aguirre, The Wrath of God. I mentioned that as maybe one of my favorite movies. I actually went to go see Apocalypse Now recently. That's one of my favorite films as well. I just think it's extraordinary and ambitious, and yet I think all that that film does, so far as the prowess and everything, it doesn't achieve what Aguirre, The Wrath of God does. And there's more of a simplicity there. There's more of an authenticity. And there is this new agey psychedelic feel to it that is an undercurrent, and it builds and builds and builds. The problem with me when it comes to Apocalypse Now, as much as I enjoy the experience of the ending, I feel like we've written ourselves into a corner compared to Aguirre, The Wrath of God, where the ending blossoms. And Werner Herzog, he lives just as a creative person in a place that is on edge, where you never know what is going to happen. He is so interested in the aspects of society and human behavior that very few people are willing to probe. And you can always feel that in his movies, and Aguirre, The Wrath of God is one that I think you can feel that the utmost. And me, I am an artist. I draw a lot of portraits and such, and I think the way that he captures faces and just the cinematography in the movie, the score, everything, it's a marvel. An affair to remember because it was very important to me in broadening my taste as a cinephile. When I was a kid, I only liked a handful of genres: sci-fi, fantasy, comedy, action, and refused to explore anything outside of them. Then I stumbled across this romantic drama on TV, and since there wasn't really anything else on, I watched it and absolutely loved it, which made me realize that I can enjoy other kinds of films. I mean, that's cool. And that's cool that you arrived at that one a little bit later. An Affair to Remember is one I have kind of the opposite experience. I grew up on that movie. I watched that movie all the time when I was like 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. But what's funny is around that time, I watched Sleepless in Seattle a lot because those kinds of romantic comedies were popular back in the 90s. So it was kind of weird. As a kid, I'm watching this meta examination of An Affair to Remember and then watching An Affair to Remember at the same time. Yes, An Affair to Remember, it's kind of like, a love story. There's something very classic about it, very cheesy, but also in a way quite timeless. I love Deborah Kerr as an actress, and obviously Cary Grant. Their chemistry is fantastic. The gowns she wears, I'm sorry, I'm a girl. I loved all of that. I found the characters interesting, and there's just something to Cary Grant. I love him as an actor. I think he's one of the more versatile movie stars of his time, even though I don't think that's necessarily what he's known for, but spoiler alert, but when there's the big climax at the end of the film, the way he plays it in such an understated way, I mean, it makes you want to cry. A scene like that could have been so schmaltzy. And yes, it is sugary sweet, of course, to an extent. It's all about the execution. And it is effortless, I think. But yeah, so those are a few of the answers that you guys gave. Thank you guys so much for writing in. We will do another one at some point. Thank you for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below, and if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch my videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.